Hey guys, welcome back. So we are on to section 3.2. Hopefully the GeoGebra activity in class kind of helped get some of this underway for you. But make sure your packets are opened up to section 3.2 and let's get started. When parallel lines are cut by a transversal, the angle pairs that are formed are either congruent or they are supplementary. All right, that is going to be key to everything in this section right now. So when we take a transversal and we intersect two lines and we make those 8 angles, and we have all those pairs that we talked about in section 3.1, those pairs are either going to be congruent or supplementary, but it only happens when the lines that intersect it, or I'm sorry, the lines that are cut by the transversal are actually parallel. All right, and remember congruent, that's our figure for our symbol for congruent, and it means that they're the same, and supplementary means that they add to 180. All right, so this is going to be a big deal. So super fast, we are going to go through these different postulates here. So when we have two parallel lines, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. All right, we're going to use some shorthand here. So if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. Then we're going to look at alternate interior angles theorem. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, and I'm okay with you writing trans like that if we need to, all right? If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate interior, so alt-int is fine, alternate interior angles are also congruent to each other. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate exterior angles are congruent. If you're going to use abbreviations, just make sure that you are careful and that they are clear what you mean, okay? Keep going, Miss J. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of same side interior angles are supplementary. Okay, so same side, supplementary. I always think same side gives me SS. Those are always going to be supplementary. All right, so alternate interior, alternate exterior, and corresponding, those three are always going to be congruent when we have parallel lines. Then when we look at parallel lines and we have same side interior angles, they are sup. And two parallel lines cut by a transversal also give us same side interior angles, or same side exterior, excuse me, we just did interior. They are also going to be supplementary. Okay, they are going to add to 180 degrees. Then we've got the vertical angles theorem that we already talked about in chapter 1, and hopefully you guys remember vertical angles are congruent to each other. All right, let's do some real problems here then. So go ahead and turn the page. And let's look here. So we want to fill in the blanks with the appropriate angle measures and their relationships, and then find the angle measure. So angle ABF, so ABF, I'm going to highlight ABF is right here. So that's that 30-degree angle right there. And BFG. So what is BFG? B is right here, F, G. So when we look at those two, we can actually see that they are alternate interior angles. All right, and so they must be congruent. We said that if we have parallel lines, then alternate interior angles are always going to be congruent to each other. So the measure of angle BFG must be 30 degrees. All right, now I've got ABF, so that same first blue one that I drew. And now we're looking at BFE. So BFE is actually right here. So the orange and that first blue one that I drew, those are same side interior angles. Which means, so same side, I've got SS, those must be supplementary. All right, same side interior angles are sup. So since the first one is 30 degrees, 180 minus 30, hopefully you guys agree with me, that's going to be 150 degrees. All right, you should be pros by now. After all the practice that we've done, you should be pros at naming these different types of angles. Now we're just focusing on the fact that they're parallel. By the way, speaking of that, I missed it. These symbols right here, don't forget those mean that those lines are parallel. So we've got transversal here, DH, and those are my parallel lines. Because remember, these relationships only work when we have parallel lines. So let's jump on down here. And again, let's actually start with that then, Miss J, shall we? Let's figure out what our parallel lines are. So I have a parallel line here and here. See those arrows there? Those arrows on the lines are telling me that these two lines are parallel to each other. So there's my parallel lines. Here's my transversal. And I'm going to go from there. So GEH. Angle GEH is right here. And angle ACE. ACE is right here. All right, so when we look at those two angles, they to me look like they are in the exact same spot. Hopefully you guys agree. So those are corresponding angles. If I pick this one up and smash it on top of that one, they are exactly the same. Those are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are going to be congruent, which means that the measure of angle ACE is also 105 degrees. So I'm actually going to go ahead and draw another arc mark in here, because then I can show, hey, those are congruent because I've got the parallel lines. Then I want to look at GEH, so again, that first one that I was looking at, and I want to look at ACB. So ACB is right here, and I'm just going to put an arc mark with some ticks on it to show that it's a little different. But I'm looking at these two angles here. Those are same side exterior angles. And again, same side SS, those must be supplementary, which means they add to 180 degrees. So I can do 180 minus 105, and I get 75 degrees for the measure of angle BCD. All right, so let's move on here to some of the more challenging ones. Not super challenging, but all right, let's take a look. We want to solve for the variable, and we have to justify our answer with a postulate or a theorem. So first thing we want to do is we have to figure out, okay, yep, these lines are parallel, so we're good there. And these are on, or I'm sorry, that's my transversal. If I look at my two angles that I've got there, they are definitely on different sides of my transversal, and they are outside the two parallel lines, which means these are alternate exterior angles. So we have to think about, what do we know about alternate exterior angles when we've got these parallel lines? Well, they're going to have to be congruent to each other. So that means I can say 3y plus 10 equals 100. And I can figure out what y is. So I get 3y equals 90, divide by 3, and I get y equals 30. Oops, you guys can't see. There we go. Y equals 30. So I can go up here and say that. Now I have to justify it. All right, your justifications, your postulates or theorems that you're justifying with are always if-then statements. So we have to start with if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then we had what kind of angles? We said alternate exterior. So alternate exterior angles are congruent. Right? The reason that we are able to set up this equation right here is because of this postulate. So remember how in the last chapter I made you guys write an equation before you used the angle addition or the segment addition so that you could always understand where those equations were coming from. You had to write a formula first. Well, in this one, you've got to be able to justify it with words. So if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. Cool? Let's take a look at the next one. We're actually going to do number 6 in class. So go ahead and jump down to question 7. All right, it is very similar to the one that we just did, but let's take a look. We've got this angle right here and this one right here. So when we look at those, hopefully you guys agree with me when I say that those are corresponding angles. All right, so if I have corresponding angles, I know that they are also going to be congruent to each other. So I get 2x minus 45 equals x plus 30. And we can solve for x from there, right? Subtract x, add 45. We'll end up getting x equals 75. But now it doesn't ask for how much x is. It asks for the measure of angle DEF. Well, DEF is this x plus 30, so it's 75 plus 30. So it's 105 degrees. But again, we need our justification. So in this section, it's always going to start with if parallel lines cut by a transversal, if parallel lines cut by a transversal, then what kind of angles did we have? We had corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. That's why we're able to say that the measure of angle DEF is 105 degrees. Let's take a look at question 8. We've got this angle right here, and we've got this angle right here. Hopefully you guys can see those are same side exterior. Right, same side exterior angles. If I've got parallel lines, they've got to be supplementary. So remember, supplementary means they're going to add to 180 degrees. So 14x plus 21 plus 23x plus 11 is going to have to equal 180. And I am going to leave the rest for you guys to finish. I want you to finish question 8 before you come to class tomorrow. So once you are done with this video, I would like you to give it a shot. We will talk about it tomorrow. You need to finish solving for x, find the measure of angle GEF, and then I want you to write your justification. We're going to see how you guys do with it. All right? We have one more thing that we are going to need to talk about really quickly here. Take a look at this bonus question that I've got here on page 16 for you. All right? This is called a crook problem. So if you look, we've got these two lines, F and G, and they're parallel to each other. And then we've got kind of these segments that are coming in here. All right, and it makes a little bit of a crook. That's why it's called a crook problem. In order to solve this problem, we're going to have to use what we know about parallel lines. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is where I see that crook, I'm going to draw in a parallel line. All right, that line then, that orange one that I just drew, is not only parallel to F, but it's also parallel to G, because I purposely drew it that way, okay? So, notice also that that takes angle 8 and it cuts it. Doesn't cut it in half, it just cuts it into these two other angles. So we got to figure out what's going on here. Excuse me. So, let's first focus on this portion of the picture. All right, so with those two parallel lines and with this angle 70 here, would you guys agree then that that other angle I just drew, it's an alternate interior angle. And if I have parallel lines, alternate interior angles are then congruent to each other. So that angle must also be 70 degrees. All right, then I'm going to do something similar, but the other way. I'm going to cover up this portion. And look, I've just got two parallel lines, right? And I've got this angle right here, and it's 80 degrees. Well, this one right here is alternate interior with it also, which means it's also 80 degrees. Well, now when I look at the whole picture overall, where's angle 8? Angle 8 is what I was looking for, right? So angle 8 is these two angles together. So the measure of angle 8 is 70 plus 80. All right, ooh, that yellow is a little bit hard to see. But 70 plus 80, hopefully you guys are good with your algebra skills right there. 70 plus 80 is 150, which means that angle 8 right there is 150 degrees. And how did we get that? Well, we drew in some parallel lines, right? Or we drew in a parallel line. And then we used the fact that we had alternate interior angles in there. So if parallel lines cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. All right, this is a bonus question. This is just kind of a, hey, let's expand on this a little bit. All right, there will not be tons of test questions or anything like that on this. This was just for those of you that are already kind of getting this and we want to push you a little bit farther. All right, so hopefully that made sense. If not, we can talk about it, but I would like you guys to finish question 8 for your homework, and we will chat about it tomorrow, and then we will do question 6 together tomorrow as well. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.